This is One on One. Hi, I'm Steve Adubato, coming to you from the Tisch WNET studio right here in the heart of New York City, in Lincoln Center. Read this book a while back. I wasn't the only one. It's called Double Down, Game Change, 2012. Mark Halperin is one of the co-authors, and he is with us today. We're pleased. He is a co-author of this book and also editor-at-large at Time Magazine. You also can check him out with an interesting crowd at Morning Joe on MSNBC every morning. How are you doing?
I'm doing excellent. First time I've been in this studio, which is just a few blocks from my house, so it feels local and good.
Yeah, local and good. That's a great slogan. Hey, we're local and good. Yeah. And we're public television. We're happy to have you with us. Interesting, when I was reading this book, I was just saying to you before we got on the air, people say, oh, that was the 2012 election. We're on to 2016. But I said to you that there's so much in this book that sets the groundwork, if you will, or lays the groundwork for 2016. I'm just going to jump into some players and give me some reaction. The fact that Romney is talked about in the way he is here, and the fact that Romney's still in play and talked about, and then there was a documentary that said, hey, he's a much more likable guy than he was in the campaign. Do you say to yourself that a lot of us missed that he was apparently more human than some other folks thought?
One of the things we're proudest about at the book is to bring people to life, including people like Mitt Romney, who is caricatured. But if you spend time behind the scenes talking to the key players involved, you do get a more textured portrait. That documentary maker had extraordinary access. One of the things John Hamm and I were so happy when we saw the documentary was we think our portrait matches that pretty well. We weren't allowed behind the scenes quite the same way as that documentary maker, but he is a more nuanced guy, funnier, more interesting. Mitt Romney, everyone I meet who's met him, with few exceptions, has a higher opinion of him than people who've just seen him on TV. He wasn't able to translate that. And part of what we write about in the book is how do you, if your family likes you, if your coworkers like you, if you're a likable person in your real life, what are the challenges of translating that on TV, which is the way most voters are going to see it? He wasn't able to do it.
There's a pretty big section, a couple sections in the book that talk about a player that's not just interesting in this metropolitan area where we are seen in multiple states, but also across the country, and you know where I'm going.
Yeah.
Who interacted with Mitt Romney in a fascinating fashion, one-on-one.
Yeah.
Christie. Take the whole other situation out of play and just deal with this.
What I call traffic issues.
Those little traffic issues. Christie, Mitt Romney in a room, 2012, negotiating as to what it would be like between the two of them if, in fact, Romney were to get Chris Christie's endorsement, if Chris Christie were not going to run. Describe that scene.
You picked a great scene for illuminating the personality of this guy. That scene and a few others in the book, if you read the book when this bridge thing happened, no surprise, right? Because so much of what Chris Christie is like is on full display in the context of the last presidential campaign, even though he didn't run. This is a moment where he's decided at that point he doesn't want to run. He wants to be the kingmaker. Mitt Romney comes to see him. They have a dinner at the governor's residence.
Drumthwacket.
Best named governor's residence in America. And they have a big meeting where Romney makes the pitch to Christie and about a dozen or so of his supporters about why they should endorse him. And then Christie and Romney go in a back room and have a private meeting. And Christie makes an extraordinary demand. Never in all my years of reporting have I heard of anyone making this demand. He says to Romney, not ready to endorse you now, and until I do, you can't raise money in New Jersey. Romney had supporters in New Jersey from the last campaign, knew a lot of people. It's obviously a huge state for fundraising. But Christie's posture was, until I endorse, no one of significance is going to give money to any Republican in this race because we're all going to go together. Don't raise money in my state. Romney was taken aback. For him, it was like something out of The Sopranos. A guy takes him in the back room.
Oh, come on. He was in New Jersey.
Exactly. Takes him in the back room and says, don't raise money in my state. One of Romney's aides pointed out that Christie had come to Boston and raised money in Massachusetts. But Chris Christie, general way of operating is, what's mine is mine, and what yours is, we'll negotiate.
Romney says?
Romney left without committing, but his campaign manager, a guy named Matt Rhodes, who had ties to the Christie camp, said, you know what? We're going to do what Christie says. There'll be plenty of time to raise money in New Jersey. Right. We want this endorsement. That is part of the key to understanding Chris Christie. He makes an audacious, unusual, to say the least, demand and gets his way.
Well, again, it's a big leap, some might argue, to explain everything that has gone on. And that is why, as we do this program moving into the spring of 2014, we'll allow the investigation to move forward.
Sure.
But your point is, Well taken.
And again, I don't even mean this as criticism. I just mean it as factual storytelling about who
Style.
this guy is. It's a style, but also a way of operating. It's not just people talk about a culture and a style. It's what Christie has done successfully, and it's led to a lot of his success because he's been aggressive and he's been audacious in dealing with other politicians.
Barack Obama, 2012. Barack Obama, 2014. Biggest difference.
That he's gone through a re-election, which was a huge accomplishment under the circumstances, but he's had, in the interval, the worst year of his presidency, 2013, where nothing got done. And he's now at a real tipping point where either something dramatic is going to happen, where he can get a situation where things will be productive for the balance of his term, or 2014 is a repeat of 2013. We've seen some accomplishments this year on the budget and a few deals, but the big things the president wants to do, climate change, immigration, tax reform, more on education and worker training. To get any of that done, he's going to have to go back to the pre-2012 Obama, who, again, was all about politics and getting reelected. His theory of the case was, I'll get reelected, it'll unstick everything. That hasn't happened.
But in the book, Obama, 2012, tremendous insecurity as to whether he was going to win this race.
Yeah.
And the Chicago stuff, let folks in on the whole Chicago thing. The Chicago, like, there was a Chicago group. Yeah. They're always meeting.
Yeah. He shows in this book, there's a portrait of him that people have rarely seen, of a guy who is normally the most self-assured, the most confident.
Yes.
In this case, both in the fall of 2011 and then on the eve of the second presidential debate, had real doubts about whether he could do what he needed to do.
P.S. Why was he so bad in that first debate? You talk about that a lot in the book.
Yeah.
So bad in that first debate.
Not a great,
so off his game.
Yeah, well, not a great debater, despite his image as a great speaker.
But worse than even that.
Yeah, he was psyched out because they told him in the first meeting they had with him to prepare for the debates, they said, the incumbent never wins the first debate. The challenger has every advantage. Romney's been debating in the nomination fight. The expectations are lower. Just standing on the stage with the incumbent helps. And Romney was great. That played a huge role, but the president was horrible because their game plan was, they said, we don't want waves in this debate. They gave him a basketball metaphor. They said, you're Paul Westphal, great shooting guard from the Phoenix Suns.
And Obama loves basketball.
Exactly. So they thought, give him a metaphor he can appreciate. Westphal, great shooter, put points on the board, didn't play much defense. But their view was, you'll score 140, Romney will score 120, you'll win the debate. He went in there psyched out because when Romney said stuff that Obama objected to, he didn't know how to handle it. And his other big problem is, he's a law professor. He likes to speak in paragraphs. He likes to win the argument. They kept telling him in preparation, that's not how a debate works. Lead with the conclusion, and then if you want to say some other stuff, fine. He never solved that in the first debate, and it messed with his head. The result was a moment of crisis for him, which, as bad as the first debate was, as we report in the book for the first time, on the eve of the second debate, he had a kind of system breakdown where his aides thought he could blow the second debate and put the White House in peril.
I talked about in the beginning of this conversation, Mark, that 2012 teaches us a lot about potentially 2016, but a name that does not go away, 2012, 2008, and before that, and now 2016 is Hillary Clinton.
Yeah.
So, but she's part of the book too, as is Bill.
Yeah, Bill's a huge part of the book. President Clinton, as everybody knows, worked hard to get President Obama reelected, but the story we tell in the book of how that came to be, how they went from pretty much at odds in 2008 to not very connected in 2009 and 2010 to working together in 2011 and 2012.
Needed each other?
They needed each other. It was a marriage of convenience. Our first book, Game Change, was about what we say the political love story between Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton. This book's about the political love story between Barack Obama and Bill Clinton.
Do they love each other?
Marriage of convenience. They appreciate each other. There's a genuine closeness near that. You see
genuine closeness?
You see it at the end of the campaign. There is a genuine closeness, in part because of the President's Club and the appreciation that there's only a few people who've ever held that responsibility, but also because they learned to appreciate what each was doing, what each was getting out of it. Bill Clinton got to be back on the national stage. You know, he ran for re-election in '96. In 2000, Gore didn't want him out there. In 2004, John Kerry wanted him, but he was sick. He'd had his surgery. 2008, Obama didn't want him out there. So President Obama gave President Clinton his first opportunity since 1996 to be a general election performer. Clinton loved it. We write in the book about how much he took to that opportunity. Obama got the validator in chief, the explainer in chief, the ability of Bill Clinton at the convention, out on the stump, endorsing Obama for re-election. Huge.
I can't let you out of here. Guys, I know you're saying we have, I'm going to go a couple minutes, so just, I hear you. 2016, I have to let you do this.
Yeah.
I need you to do this. Some names. Rand Paul, 30 seconds.
Very impressive. People in the Northeast, I think, underestimate how good a campaigner he is, how smart he is, and how much a lot of people in the establishment are looking at his appeal to young people and the libertarian wing of the party and saying, maybe he's not our nominee, but he should be a big voice in this contest.
Hillary Clinton.
She is like an incumbent in terms of her appeal to the party, her broad institutional support. I keep saying I'm not sure she's going to run. People tell me I look like an idiot because, of course, she's going to. If she runs, she's the colossus, not only in the Democratic field, but in the whole race.
Age matter at all?
I don't think it does for her because I think people see her as a hard worker. I think it matters in her deliberation. That's one of the reasons I think she might take a pass on the race. But I think voters in other countries look to older people. She can be that old. She's got to make the election about the future. That's the trick.
It's interesting. I'm going to ask the same question. If she does not, Joe Biden, age matter?
I think it matters more for him, even though he's a very vigorous guy.
Looks great, takes care of himself.
If she doesn't run, the story instantly becomes, is Joe Biden a formidable frontrunner as an incumbent vice president, or is he back in the heap with 10 other people who would get in the race to see this as the opportunity of a lifetime, or to take on basically a truly open seat?
Could you see Jeb Bush jumping into this?
I think if Jeb Bush runs, he and Hillary Clinton will be the nominees. It will be one of the best presidential contests we have, a substantive debate. Hey, at a time when the country's looking for fundamental change, what says change more than a Clinton-Bush general election? He is an impressive guy. The thing I said about Romney before is even more true of Jeb. Meet any Democrat who met Jeb Bush and spent time with him, and they will tell you they like him, they respect him, and they'd be fine with him as president. They might even support him. That, in this polarized age, is pretty remarkable, and it's even more remarkable given that the guy's name is Bush.
Good stuff. Hey, listen, folks, you want to learn more about presidential campaigns and politics and think more about 2016 and what could happen, read Double Down, Game Change 2012, Mark Halperin and your colleague, John Heilman?
Heilman, New York Magazine.
New York Magazine. Good stuff. Read it. And I enjoyed it from cover to cover. And it's just good stuff. And I very much appreciate you joining us.
Thank you.
Would you say we're good and local?
Good and local.
I don't know if we could sell our president, Neil Shapiro, on that, but we'll try. Good and local. Public television. We'll be back right after this. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.
Appreciate it.
One-on-One with Steve Adubato has been a production of the Caucus Educational Corporation, celebrating 25 years of broadcast excellence in partnership with St. Joseph's Healthcare System. This special edition of One-on-One with Steve Adubato is brought to you from the Tisch WNET studios at Lincoln Center. Funding has been provided by Virtua, NJIT, New Jersey Natural Gas, Horizon Blue Cross Blue Shield of New Jersey, TD Bank, and by the New Jersey Education Association. Transportation provided by Airbrook Limousine, serving the metropolitan New York, New Jersey area.